What is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where today we are talking everything SuperCoach. I will be selecting my first team. I will run through players I think you should be keeping your eyes on. And at the end of the video, I'm going to be releasing my league code to the world. So if you want to get on board a free competition, just to have a bit of fun with other people within this community, within this location we are building together, you can do so. But without further ado, I've taken way too long to get this video out, so let's just dive straight on in. As you can see on screen, there are some players that I've already gone and selected. To me, these are my must-have players, or the players that I feel you should heavily consider having in your team above all else, for many different reasons, which we'll talk about. I'll cover these players first, and then we will break down defenders, midfielders, ruck, and forwards in the way of primos, mid-prices, and our basement bottom, dwelling rookies that are going to make us all of our money. But we're kicking it off with Connor Rozee in defense. I actually took Connor Rozee out of my team because Connor Rozee and Nasiah Wanganeen Malira are in almost 100% of teams that I have seen on social media. I'm in many SuperCoach groups that, share their team lineups and ask for opinions, and I always see those two popping up. So I tried going against the grain and being very non-cookie cutter, have some pods, but I had a look at Port Adelaide's run and have a look on screen. Within their first 10 rounds, North Melbourne, Essendon, West Coast, Richmond, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Geelong, Adelaide, Bulldogs, and the Gold Coast. I only see maybe Geelong and the Gold Coast being two teams that might hamper some scoring, but he is going to go big in the first 5 to 6 rounds. After that, he follows up with another West Coast game. He plays Carlton, he plays Adelaide again, he plays North Melbourne and St Kilda again, and then he finishes the year with Essendon and Melbourne. Port Adelaide's fixturing is so soft this year. I didn't realize how easy a run they were going to have. So realistically, in my predictions video, when I said they were going to finish 11th or 12th, maybe I was too harsh on these guys. Did I have them in that position? Did I have them higher? I think I had them in about 11th or 12th. That's crazy. I should have just looked at the fucking fixturing to get a better handle on things. That is also why I've gone and made sure Zach Butters is one of my first selected midfielders. Both of these guys are going to pump out big numbers early. They're going to get a price rise going early. You're not going to want to miss a jump with both of these players. I feel you've got to have Connor Rozee and you've got to have Butters as locks. As far as the rest of my defenders go, I've got Zeke Yuland. Obviously, highly touted, drafted early, got a wing role at the Gold Coast. He should play in the A team pretty much straight away. I'm banking on a round 1 debut. If they're playing round 0, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in that round 0 lineup. They wanted this kid desperately. They made sure they moved heaven and hell to make sure that this academy pick did not slip through their fingers. And if Damien Hardwick has shown anything, it's his appreciation of playing young players. So Zeke Yuland is definitely going to get plenty of game time early. Josh Lindsay has been lighting it up at West Coast. If you don't have him in your team, at least as a bench option, just cancel your team. Just start again. Everybody's talking about how well this kid is going, and the ball is going to be in West Coast defensive half more often than not. So picking up a defender that's going to get plenty of it, sign me up. Lock me in. We've already spoken about Butters in the midfield. Hayden Young, if he can keep his body fit, can be a player that I feel averages 100 SuperCoach points this year. There's no doubt about it. He is the perfect mid-forward hybrid. He plays a defensive game, finds plenty of the ball, can hit the scoreboard. It's just a matter of making sure the hamstrings are loose and they don't tighten up and fucking cause him any harm. But I definitely see, not only for SuperCoach can he be a big prospect this year, but I feel just for Fremantle in general, he could be a real key component to their success in 2026. As far as the rookies I've got, I think they're self-explanatory. Dyson Sharp, he got taken by Essendon with their first pick. He is touted as the most AFL ready in the draft from the previous draft that just went down. Essendon are screaming for this type of player within their midfield core. Should be named round 1. If not, Scott is fucking out of his mind. Jagger Smith, Drafted 2 years ago, obviously did that injury that set him out for 12 months. He's been building a tank, he's been building a bigger body, and in all actuality, with all the footage we've been seeing of Carlton and their preseason training, he's been standing out as one of their best, and he hasn't even played a game of AFL football yet. So getting him on board is a no-brainer. Sharp and Smith are going to make plenty of cash, should play all season, barring injury. Fingers crossed, I just haven't put a curse on him. On the bench, I've got Jack Carroll from St Kilda. If you're looking for a cheap option, I definitely recommend him. With Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira transitioning into a midfield role, it's been Jack Carroll and Jack Sinclair being used in match simulation and training drills as the halfback flanks in that defensive lineup. And if he's got that role, it could be one that actually sees him score a solid amount of points, because we know Ross Lyon loves playing that slow defensive game, which means he's going to get kick-in opportunities. He's going to have the ball kicked to him from kick-ins, all that sideways and back, kicking, all that efficiency. We're looking at somebody who could be getting us a solid average early and making us some bank. As far as the ruck line goes, I'm taking Tristan Xerri. It's a roll of the dice here with our rucks this year, because there are probably 5 or 6 ruckmen that we could start as a 1-2 combo. But I just feel, even with the ruck changes that are happening this year, Xerri still likes to get down and dirty on the ground, can win his own clearance, plenty of tackle numbers, plenty of grunt work, loves to handball, so he's going to be racking up a lot of that ball feeding out, and I still think he's going to be solid enough to be top 2 ruckman by the end of the year. He might not be athletic enough to get to every contest, but he's going to make up for that with shit he does around the ground. He's still a lock for me. Reedy on the bench, probably one that might get shifted if not given opportunity, but he's been running it against Mark Pittonet. We've seen Michael Voss, at least last year, gave Pittonet and TDK a run together, so if he's wanting to do that 1-2 punch again, Reedy's going to get plenty of opportunity. With Charlie Curnow gone, he might be used as a forward utility and then get some ruck work, so he's got chance to score through forward 50 marking, through goal assists, through goal kicking himself. I definitely think he's one to consider, at least in a forward option. If you're looking for maybe a forward ruck swap, he's the perfect opportunity to do so. My forward line is pretty self-explanatory. Harry Sheasel was one of my first picked last year in defense. Cannot pass this guy up as a premium forward when the premium forwards this year are probably few and far between. You can probably throw a blanket over a few of them, but there are still question marks around the roles each of those players are going to have. Sure as shit though, Sheasel's going to get midfield minutes. He kicks goals. He gets plenty of the ball. They love getting it into his hands. He's going to keep scoring us big numbers. Sam Flanders comes from the Gold Coast. Not much opportunity there for him. Comes to a St Kilda lineup that has seen Jack Steele leave. So there is a midfield spot open, and I feel they are stupid to not give Sam Flanders that nod. With him in the middle, with the likes of a Jack McRae or a Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira, he's going to find plenty of it. They're going to utilise him. He's got a great defensive game to him, so it fits Ross Lyon's mould again. He knows how to hit the scoreboard. I'm still 50-50 on him because I want to see the role he plays first, and that's going to play into talking about some other players from St Kilda as well. But at that price, with what we've seen him dish up in the past, you can't go past him. And Devon Robertson as my forward rookie, I feel out of all the forward rookies this year, he's probably the most ready to go, and I would probably argue that ahead of Willem Dersma as well. He is well ahead of Schoenberg. He is well ahead of Finlay McRae. So when it comes to these kind of players, definitely look at him. He's been performing really well. High half forward midfield kind of role. Again, knows how to hit the scoreboard. Plenty of tackle numbers. Loves putting on pressure. So he's going to make up some numbers for us really early. Those are the players that I'm guaranteed to start with. I highly recommend you look into each of those for different reasons. I think they could all slot into everybody's team perfectly well. But now we're going to run it to the defense. As I said, Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira and Connor Rozee seems to be the ultimate 1-2 start here, and I'm wanting to go against the grain with that, because while Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira here, we know he's put out some big numbers. He goes into a midfield role, and I feel he is now the prime target of any opposition coach who wants to shut a player down. He's going to get sent players going to get sent to him. He's going to get shut out of games if he's not kicking 3 goals, if he's not getting, decent disposal number, decent clearance. He's not going to be giving us these high numbers that he was generating from getting kick-ins, from playing off of halfback and getting all that loose ball around the contest. That opens up opportunity, I feel, for Jack Sinclair to step up, because with Naz going into the middle, this now means Jack Sinclair becomes your designated kick-in player. He becomes a player that you look to get the ball in hand of from kick-ins, and we saw at the end of last season when Naz started playing further up the field, Sinclair was really benefiting from playing that role. So if anything, Naz goes into the midfield, Sinclair's stocks should absolutely rise. So personal take from me, I'd be going Sinclair over Naz. But in this team, I am for going both, because I'm still unsure as to how this operation is going to work with both of them, and I'd rather get a sample sizing of how that's going to work. At least after a few games, one of these guys could be a target for myself early to get on board. The player I am starting is a player that I didn't start last year, and I'm spewing I didn't. I am locking in Lockie Whitfield. Lockie Ash is another one you can play in this role. We've seen how he's gone last year. I started him last year tipping a breakout season and foolishly traded him out and faded him for Harry Perryman. It was the stupidest fucking decision I've ever made in my life. But similar to Port Adelaide, GWS have a very cushy draw, and I believe they're very buy-friendly as well. We'll quickly bring up the season stats. We will move ourselves to season 2026 so you guys can see for yourselves. They start with Bulldogs, St Kilda, Collingwood, Richmond, Sydney, North Melbourne, the Gold Coast, Essendon and West Coast in their first 10. Gold Coast might be one he struggles a little bit with, maybe. Outside of that, I don't see any other team giving him trouble at all. They then run into Brisbane. Okay, might be a little bit tough, but then they drop back into Melbourne, St Kilda again, then they get Carlton, they get Sydney again, they get West Coast again. Very good draw, as I said, and they get a round 4 bye, and they get the round 13 bye. So again, very bye friendly, because he's going to help you get through that bye period very well, as will any other GWS player. I'm spewing Tom Green has gone and done his ACL, because Tom Green was actually one of my first selected midfielders this year. Unfortunately, now not going to be the case. But Lockie Whitfield as my D1, very happy to run that. In D3, for the longest time, I had Colby McKercher. Now, McKercher is apparently playing that halfback role, but we've seen him also play on a wing. We've seen midfield. We've seen a little bit of forward. Where is he going to play? I need to see something definitive before I lock him in. So I'm actually not going to go with Colby McKercher as that 400 to 500k type player. Trent Rivers is another one that I feel could be selected in this role. Obviously, with no Christian Petrarca, no Clayton Oliver, there is now room in the midfield for him to play. And it does sound like the starting midfield group for Melbourne is going to be evolved and revolving around the combination of Jack Steele, Trent Rivers, Keziah Pickett. Obviously, you'd then have Caleb Windsor in there. You'd also have Tom Sparrow. You'd have some other players as well. But I feel Trent Rivers is one of those players that is going to be utilised in the midfield because he's got a weapon of a left boot, when he's clean with it, of course. And I just feel he could have a breakout year, with opportunity now knocking for him to play permanent midfield time. Same with Keziah Pickett. But Keziah Pickett does real stupid shit that sees him suspended. He can be very lazy with ball in hand, very nonchalant, and there's some games where he might struggle a little bit. So I'm a little bit more inclined to go a Rivers over a Pickett, but I'm not going Rivers either. The other one I'm fading, that a lot of people have been talking about, is Tom McCarthy from West Coast. He's apparently transitioned into a midfield role himself, and that's a tasty prospect, given the numbers we have seen this guy put up. He debuts against Carlton last year, 133, 100, 82, 87, 71, 96, 123, 80, 77, and 83. moving into a midfield role could see it rise, but I mean, Tom McCarthy was playing in defence and was taking some kick-ins and stuff as well, so taking that away from his game might hamper him a little bit, and that's where a player like Lindsay can get on top of that, because he can get involved in that role. Again, I'd love to give him a crack, but it's a player that I need to see the role in play, and that's the case for a lot of players in this team. So he's definitely on my watch list, but he's not on my starting list. A player who is going to start for me, though, I'm taking Josh Dacos, 9% owned, so he's still very much a pod. He has been training in the midfield all preseason. All the match simulations that have gone down, he's been in the midfield. He's been almost best on ground every single match sim. Obviously, Nick Dacos didn't play in their latest match sim because he was in the State of Origin, but Josh Dacos, we saw it in the later part of last year. Given opportunity in the midfield, he's got real X factor about him. He was absolutely dominant in that Fremantle game, and if he can replicate that kind of run this year, could be absolutely huge, especially pairing up with his brother. That move to the midfield could make Dan Houston a viable option for us as well, because obviously at Port Adelaide, he was that designated running half back. He wasn't able to do that at Collingwood because you had Isaac Quainer and Josh Dacos doing that role. But if Josh Dacos is now in the middle, they need somebody to cover that role, and they've got Dan Houston already on deck. So I feel Dan Houston might be a sneaky one to watch this year. He let us down last year. He burnt me, definitely, but could be one to keep on our radar. As for the rest of the team, obviously we turn our attention now to rookies just to fill out the gaps. I originally had, from the Bulldogs, Lockie Carmichael. Apparently he's still 2 to 3 weeks away from a syndesmosis injury, so not entirely sure as to whether we should be starting this guy, but he could be a viable bench option in the midfield if you want to have a mid-defensive swap for a Zeke Hewland. Moving down the list, who else could be a viable option here? I'm looking, who do we see? We could go with Matt Whitlock, maybe defensive forward. I'm not 100% sold on him though. Jai Sarong is definitely one I'm going to pick up. There is room in that defensive line for somebody to step in. They obviously traded for him for a reason, and securing him all but confirms to me he's got a role to play. And if he's got a role to play, he's got some cash to make. Sydney are going to be big improvers and big risers for me this year, so I'm really hot on looking at Sydney players in certain positions when we can land them. Further going down the list, who else can we look at in these, like Josh Gibcus should be in the A team for Richmond, but he plays more of a key defensive role, and I don't know whether key defenders are going to be scoring all too big. So at 139k, I think there is better value elsewhere. Andy Moniz Wakefield could have been one that you could select, but he's running with an injury right now. It says here he's done a knee. Expected recovery time is to be confirmed. I definitely feel another one you should be looking at is Xavier Taylor from Melbourne. Jack Bowie's gone down with injury and is going to be out for a period of time. They need a running half back. Xavier Taylor has been drafted for that position. He has been training in that role, and Match Sims has seen him get plenty of the ball off of half back. So I'm really keen, especially with Stephen King as coach, to see how Melbourne line up, because I don't think Stephen May is going to get much of a run this year. They tried kicking him out the door for free. They've reluctantly brought him back because nobody wanted him. I think he's going to see a lot of VFL this year. So there is a role to be fit and played, and I think Xavier Taylor is the one that's going to slot into that role. As for any other players, I'm not entirely certain. I think for now, I still am going to go with Lockie Carmichael anyway, because I like the look of him. There's opportunity for him, and he should get game time when fit. Obviously, there's still 22 days to go, so if he's 2 to 3 weeks away, that still fits kind of that niche, that mold. Moving into the midfield, we are going big, because I straight off rip am clicking the names of Marcus Bontempelli and Nick Dacos. That's going to give me 3 of the top 6-7 midfielders from last year. Matt Rowell was one heavily on my list, but he's gone and broken his finger, so he's actually now going to be out for a period of time. He's going to miss the first few rounds. It was confirmed earlier today at the point of this recording. Bailey Smith is one that I like, and Hugh McCluggage as a pod as well. I mean, between Hugh McCluggage, Matt Rowell, and Bailey Smith, they're all shaping up as big pods, considering the 25% for Marcus Bontempelli, 54 for Butters, and 44 for Nick Dacos. Everybody's saying Bontempelli's too expensive, and I can see that, but when you look at the run that the Bulldogs have to kick things off, even if he only drops 50k, you're still having to come up with 650 to get him. And I think he's just one that you start because historically he's proven that if he sneezes, he scores points. Playing GWS in a midfield that's not going to have Finn Callaghan, not going to have Tom Green in that first game, means he could go big. I mean, they'll run a tag with him. They'll put a Darcy Fort or someone to follow him around, or Toby Bedford. But I think he scores well there. He scored big against Adelaide last year. Essendon, he'll absolutely maul. Hawthorn, they might bring in Finn McGuinness, but he should score well. Geelong, maybe Tom Atkins, but he scored well against Geelong last year. Sydney, Fremantle, Port, and Carlton. Top 10 see some iffy ones, but on the run home after that, Carlton, Melbourne, Collingwood, Hawthorn again, Adelaide, St Kilda, West Coast, Richmond, Fremantle, North Melbourne, Carlton, Melbourne. If you want to wait around round 10, might be when you pull the trigger, maybe, because he's got the round 16 bye, but I just feel starting him is a smart play. If you look at the scores that he scored last year against some of those teams, like he belted out 128 against GWS. His lowest in his run back was 99 against the Gold Coast. He got a 66 against St Kilda, but I think the role he played last year was a bit iffy. He played a lot of forward, and I think that was fucking ridiculous. But look at these scores. Finishes the year with a 174, 169, 151, 148, 144. You can't pass up early scores like that. I'm happy to lock him up early. Nick Dacos, we've learned, struggles with the tag, and they're going to tag him because he's one of the best in the comp. Can't argue that. No disrespect to Dacos at all. Some players just can't run with the tag. Caleb Sarong, exactly the same. Can't run with it. Last year, though, look at his numbers. Starts the year with 163, 131. Oh, no, that was his highest. That was his highest. Can I not get... I want to look at his scores for last year. He starts with a 66 against GWS. Again, no Tom Green and some other players missing. He dropped off a little bit throughout that, but after that 66, he didn't have a game that was sub 80 until round 9, which was the 76 where he was heavily tagged and had to play up forward and still found a way to score that 76. But after that, he did not dip under 90. He only did so once. And I think now that they've kind of worked that out, I think with Josh Dacos coming into the midfield causes a conundrum for opposition coaches, because now do you go to Nick? Do you put attention to Josh? Which Dacos brother's going to pop off more? And I think working together, you know they love feeding the ball to one another. They're going to do the same in that midfield. I'm happy to start both because Nick Dacos is one of those players who will end up in my end team at the end anyway. So if I can start with him, even if he gets tagged out in a few of those early games, at least I know I've got him for the rest of the year. And that's my thought process. If I can start him, I'm going to start him. This position right here, M4. Handful of players that I can slot into here. 3 in particular. Now, as I said, originally this was Tom Green, but Tom Green is now injured with that ACL. He is being listed as out for the season. That's going to hurt GWS's chances. I had them as a premiership favourite this year. No Tom Green's going to hurt them big time. Errol Goulden is the player I'm going to select here. Obviously, he missed the bulk of the start of last year, but his deliverance with ball in hand is second to none. With Charlie Curnow now playing for Sydney, I feel he's going to keep on hitting Charlie Lace out, and then Charlie goes back and kicks a goal. More points for Goulden. 2 players around that price point I am heavily looking at and I feel you should consider. I feel after the final series we just saw Will Ashcroft dish up, he could have a breakout year this year, so he's definitely one to watch. And Sam Walsh looks fit as fuck, ready and firing to go. I'm just concerned about his body because he breaks down quite easily these days. So an interesting watch for me, but I think Sam Walsh could be a top 10 midfielder for us this year if you want to go down that route. Obviously, now we just sprinkle in the rookies just to touch things up a little bit here. Now, Oliver Greaves is tantalizing, 13% owned. but in match sims, he's been doing absolutely fuck all and not given much of a run, so I don't know what the go is there. I'm going to select, tentatively, Angus Anderson from Collingwood. Now, he's an interesting pick, and the latest match sims, I don't know whether we can put much stock into it because no Nick Dacos, but Angus Anderson has been lining up in the A team for these match sims, and he's been playing midfield minutes. So if we can get a rookie that's going to get some exposure into that midfield and get their hands on the ball, because we know Nick Dacos loves to handball, we know Josh Dacos loves to give off a handball, this could be a guy that could turn into a tackling machine. He loves applying pressure, so I'm happy to select him at least now as a tentative bench option, and then after the practice games go by, after round 0 passes, we still get that freebie that we can get trades out of our team without being cost a trade. So he's one I'm selecting for the bench now, knowing that they like him enough to be playing him in the A team for match sims. Could be a different game when it comes to actually the match game coming down for round 1. But I think Collingwood's playing in round 0 again. So if he lines up round 0, definitely a lock on my bench. Moving our way on down. Who else can we select? Who are we hot on? I like the look of... Where is he? See, I don't know if we can look at a Camporelli. There's opportunity there, but I don't know if it comes knocking or not. Could Hannaford get some time? I don't know. Will Brodie, though, definitely selecting him. Obviously, another player who's come from, a third club now. Played at the Gold Coast, moved to Fremantle. Now he lands at Port Adelaide. There is room in this midfield for him to get game time. He should be playing in the A team more often than not. He's an accumulator. He loves getting the ball in hand. He is effective when playing. I think Fremantle was stupid for not playing him in this fucking role. And I think he's going to relish the opportunity under a new coach, a new system, to get plenty of game time. The final selection I'm making for the bench is going to be a Richmond player. Now, Patrick Rechko is one I'm going to put on your radar. He was a youth that could have actually stepped into an Olympic-style athletics setup. That's how big of a tank he's got. That's how much of a runner he is. He just runs for days and days and days. He's fast as fuck. Ball in hand, he looks really clean. But is he going to get enough of the ball in hand? He's been playing a predominant Richmond wing role since being drafted or traded to us for next to nothing last year. Could be that diamond in the rough scenario where he didn't get game time at Geelong, he comes to another club, he absolutely bursts onto the scene. As I said, he's got legs for days. He just runs and runs and runs, and that's something Richmond love, and they're going to utilise out on that wing. But I don't know whether just pure wingmen are going to get, big scores for us this year. Maybe with the elimination of the throw-in between the forward and defensive 50s, that might open up opportunity for him to get some easy kick-ins and transition that way as well, get the 1-2 handball, but he's definitely one to watch. But the one I'm going to be bringing in is the Grill Man, Sam Grill, 172,000. Half-back, he has been playing for Richmond, and we know there are spots in that back line to be had, especially with Tyler Young now gone. They love running half-backs. We've got Hugo Ralphsmith, he's still out injured, but we utilise him. Sam Banks, Daniel Rioli historically played the same role. We have been looking for somebody to fill that void. Jaden Short's getting older. His ball use hasn't been as good as it has in recent years. Sam Banks on one half-back flank, Grill on the other, setting up the future. I love to give him a chance, and especially with a defensive mid capability and swapping around, perfect to pick up, because now we can pivot a Hewland, we can pivot a Carmichael, and I'm loving this year having those pivots available to us. Looking at my team now, I do not have a mid-forward pivot, so that could be one that Anderson later on gets maybe subbed out for, just to have that coverage. But that is my midfield. Obviously, out of those ones on the bench, I'm probably more inclined to start a Will Brodie, with having the Grill as my emergency. For the rucks, as I said, you can throw a blanket over a few of them. Max Gawn, obviously, if you want to pay only, $2,000 more over a Tristan Cherry, you can get a proven scorer. I think the new ruck rules could affect Gawn, though, because he's a bit of a lumbering ruckman. Doesn't really like to get down and tackle all that much. He wins his own clearance. He does get, intercept marks. He can go forward and kick a goal. but I think it's a coin flip between whether you start Gawn or Cherry. If you want to start both, go for it, but I think the new rules this year are going to suit more mobile ruckmen. So the ones I want to talk about are Luke Jackson, Darcy Cameron, and Tim English. And if you even wanted to go there, you could throw a question mark over TDK as well, because we know he's very athletic, and you're going to save money by bringing him in. He's only 524,000. So at 13% owned, could be a bit of a pod. I, coming into this video, had Cherry and Darcy Cameron as my 1 and 2. Darcy Cameron showed in the State of Origin, which had these new rules in place, that he's going to really thrive with these new rules. Does everything that you need a ruckman to do, and he's still agile enough to get to each contest. He's not as lumbering as a Cherry or a Gawn, but I'm thinking here, at least for now, I'm going with Luke Jackson. And there's one big factor that is making me make this move. He's obviously not the number 1 ruckman on his own because they've got Sean Darcy there, but Jackson has been training as an inside mid. If he plays that role, he's going to have advantage over most opposition players he lines up against around the field, because one of the ruck moves that has been made this year is the umpires are now not going to ask for a nomination and then the ruck, contest happens. They're just picking up the ball and throwing it straight up. If Sean Darcy isn't in the vicinity of the area, Luke Jackson is taking that ruck work against a midfield opponent that isn't set up to take rucks. You know what I'm saying? This could be Jackson getting a free kick in the forward 50 for being held in the contest, goes and kicks a goal. He's going to get reach over midfield players, so he's going to get the tap down. He's going to get points for the ruck work. I definitely feel the rules here set Jackson up to be a top 5 ruckman again this season, and maybe push as Sean Darcy out of the way and be the number 1 ruckman at Fremantle moving forward. If the role doesn't fit and he's not playing that inside mid role and he's playing more forward, then I'll probably turn to Darcy Cameron or Tim English. If I want to free up some space and TDK starts well enough, I might even go TDK. But I'm happy to roll Cherry and Jackson. My forward line is interesting, but I want to go to my flex first, just so I know how much money I've got left to flex in my forward line. I'm going with the player that I originally had in my starting defensive line, but I'm going to actually select him in the flex here, because I'm not certain on his role just yet, because he is being thrown around in different positions during the match sims. Half back, on the wing, half forward. But even with him being played at half forward, he's finding a way to find the ball. He's kicking goals. He's setting up teammates. So I think even in that role, he's going to score points for us. And that is going to be Kitty Coleman from Brisbane. Once I find him, I'm going to slap him straight down. If he returns to that halfback role, he is going to absolutely thrive. If he plays off of the wing, he's going to find plenty of the ball. If he plays half forward, he's still going to score, but maybe not as well as what he would do in the halfback. So I'm happy to start him here in the flex role. If he scores enough to outscore a rookie, I'll take his score. If he doesn't, then we can start asking questions. But at least, at the very least, if we lose a rookie defender to an injury and we need to get rid of them, we can straight swap a Coleman into our defense and we can bring somebody else into our flex. So I think we've got some movement that can be made with Coleman in this set position here. Now we can go to our forward line. I originally had Cozzy Pickett as my F2, but just seeing how he kind of moved in the State of Origin, I don't know whether it was just a bit of ignorance for not maybe wanting to play at 100% like some other players were. But then I started remembering Cozzy Pickett has a history of doing some stupid shit, getting suspended. He can be lazy with ball. There are some games where he might not score. Some games he's just going to overscore. If we have a look at his season stats from last year, we can break it down. Scores a 77 and a 70, then he can score 100, then he can score a 60, then he scores 100. Then he finished the year with a 50 and a 60. So he's got capabilities of scoring like 148, but he's just as equal as being able to score a 52. And I think for the price point that he's at, being ranked as a top 10 selection here, just shy of 500k, we can find better options elsewhere. Rankin obviously still suspended for that homophobic slur. He comes back round 2, maybe one to look at. Nick Martin, if he wasn't out for the year, he would have been one I would have considered. Not going to fall in the trap of drafting or bringing in a key forward, but Thilthorpe is a tantalising option. I just haven't looked at his output. What was his lowest last year? A 58. No, a 46. Yeah, so he's another one. He can score 164, but then he can score a 46. And, like, he was very inconsistent. He finished off strong, like 149, 164. But it just depends on the opponent, I suppose. And they had an easier run last year, Adelaide. Christian Petrarca, I am sold on the fact that he's going to be played like Dustin Martin was. He's going to be pinch hitting in the midfield when they need him, but he's going to be a player that's going to be utilised one-on-one deep forward, and I don't know whether that quantifies a 522k price tag when he's not going to get as much midfield minutes as I'm not planning on seeing him get. So I'm not going to touch him. Not touching Sam Darcy. Fell for the trap last year. Can he score well? Absolutely he can. But then again, he can also bottom out. Like, getting 70s, the 55, like, do we want to take somebody at that price point that's going to score like that? I don't know. And then again, State of Origin, he did absolutely fuck all. Who I am going to bring in is someone that I think is going to capitalise on Tom Green being out for the year, Finn Callaghan being out early. I am rolling the dice with Toby Green. Now, again, he's another player. Like, if I bring his stats up, you're going to say, well, Zirra, he gets 50s and he gets 40s. Like, he got a 54, 51, 54. Then he got injured. Then he got a 35, right? But here's the thing. By the time he came back from that first injury, he was playing more forward-orientated football. Kingsley already came out before these GWS injuries and said Toby Green is going to get more midfield time this year. And with those two players gone, he's going to be locked into that midfield. He's going to get plenty of opportunity to get the ball. He loves setting up his teammates with score involvements and goal assists. He gets plenty of the ball on his own. He's got the capability of kicking goals on his own. I definitely feel Toby Green should be heavily considered. And at the 2% ownership, I will happily pay $440 to bring him in. This is where my selections are going to be a little bit weird, because after this, I actually did have Mateus Philippou, but I'm actually starting to question his viability, because a lot of people are saying he's going to get midfield time this year, but they've just got Sam Flanders in. They're wanting to put Naz into the midfield. So, you know, played a full game there, 21, 16, a 6, 5, 63, 53. If he's playing just pure forward, I don't think I'm going to select him. And even it says here, he's only got a projected score to start the year on 21 against Melbourne. He doesn't score well against them, so I don't know whether we should start him. Todd Marshall's got an injury over here. Achilles, subject to fitness test. I'm still going to pick him. Obviously, historically a key forward. He's now moved to the defense. He's been seen taking kick-ins. We know he's going to take intercept marks. Happy to roll the dice with this man. I'm wanting a ruck forward swap. Kalani White was one that I've had for so long. Bottom barrel price. He's got glandular fever. Expected recovery time is to be confirmed. Glandular fever. I don't know how long that is going to put someone out. If you're looking at Adam Treloar as well, he's just done an injury that set him back to his calf, so don't consider him. Cooper Duft Titler could be one that you look at. Obviously drafted this year as a ruckman. In Match Sim recently, he kicked 5 goals as well as performing well in the ruck. So with a team that's looking for a key forward because they've lost Oscar Allen, Cooper Duff Titler could be that one that plays up forward, kicks goals, gets to pinch hit in the ruck. I think he's a very viable option. Sam Lawler showing a hamstring there is very off-putting to me, and I do not like it. Speaking of Richmond, though, there is one player I do want to highlight. I don't know whether I'm going to start him or not. I've been very tempted to do so. I don't know whether my money's going to allow it, but if I can, I very well might, and that is Taj Houghton. Let's just have a look at the numbers he ran last year. What did he score? No, that's his projected. No, that's his season stats. He got a 55, 50, 75, 59, 49, 56, 41. Finding his feet. Was playing predominantly as a high half forward. Match simulation this year, if you're going off of that kind of thing, he's been playing as a pure inside mid, and okay, Richmond's midfield is very, very slow in the way of like Taranto and Hopper. They're not the fastest players in the world. But Taj Houghton has been seen running rings around 2, 3, 4 at a time, getting the ball out. He could be one to look at. I just don't think I can afford him, because if I take him, Well, it leaves me with 246. I could make that move if I wanted to. But as I said, I think Cooper Duff Titler for me is the one, unless I go for a Kalani White on the bench. So what does that look like for me if I actually do take Taj Houghton as a pod? And then I look at a Kalani White. How much money is that going to leave me for the selection process? 147,000 isn't anything to scoff about because we can still afford some decent players here. I don't know what role Leo Lombard's going to play. One to keep an eye on. Sid Draper, obviously, with an injury. It's groin soreness, subject to fitness testing. Could be a selection here. He could actually be one I trade Anderson out for and just put on the bench as a forward mid swap. At the moment, I don't have anybody. Oh, I've got Sheasel that can swap into the midfield. Lockie Doverston is one that I'm interested in. Has been playing a forward role at North Melbourne. He's been looking lively. Could get early game time, so he could be one to pick here. Outside of that... Actually, outside of that, no, I can't afford him. Josh Rochelle is another one in the forward line. That is apparently going to get more midfield time. But once Isaac Rankin comes back, is that going to be the case? I don't know. Tobin Murray has been spoken highly of at St Kilda. Oh, who do we go to fill the void here? I could do something else here too if I wanted to, and I could very well make some moves that would see Carmichael come out into my midfield, take out Anderson, move Coleman back there, and bring in Tanner Brun, who's going to be running off the wing for Geelong this year. Whether or not it's going to be viable enough, I don't know. Connor McKenna, see, he's dropped. Whether or not he gets proper time, though, is another thing. But dropping down to 121k, maybe. I don't know. With the abolishment of the sub rule, we can maybe afford to bring somebody like that in now. I think what I might do, though, is I'm going to select... I will select Sid Draper. Just for a little bit of coverage there. It's not good to have two, like, focused in that kind of thing. But as I said, it's just a selection right now. I've got some moves I can potentially make. I can take out Carmichael and move Coleman back. Like, I can show you an iteration of how that works there. So if we take Carmichael out and Coleman gets sent back there. Coleman, take that, thank you. We go to percentage owned. We select Kitty Coleman. Kitty Coleman goes on the ground for Jai Sarong. In our midfield here, we could keep Anderson if we even wanted to. But we've still got the grill man there for a swap with Yuland if the time it comes and is needed. 135k only. I would then have to look at potentially getting rid of Taj Houghton. You then go Tanner Brun in this position. If you wanted to, we could go, hang on, we could just go A to Z. No, we go player A to Z. We could bring in Tanner Brun. How much money does that then leave me with? We will soon assess. He's about 270k if I'm not mistaken. We've gone past the B's, but we're into the C's. We've got to roll it back to B. So if we wanted to, we could go... Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where's Brun? Tanner Brun? How much money does that leave me with? 126. So again, we could look at bringing in... I don't know. Leo Lombard, if we wanted to. Like, things can be done. Things can be done. It's probably not the move I'm going to make. I mean, you could even look at bringing in Brun for somebody else in the midfield. I think I'm happy to do the lineup that I did before. Which, again, I don't have to save. So I'll just refresh the screen right now and just take me back to the team I had before. Thank you very much. I'm happy with that. Again... Taj Houghton isn't a lock for me, but I like the role he's playing. Could make us some cash. I like the pod option. Could go something different if I wanted to. If I was to downgrade, I would probably bring in Cooper Duff Titler in that spot. I would get rid of Kalani White. I would bring in somebody like maybe a Leo Lombard in that role as well. I then have a guaranteed forward ruck swap, so I could play Reedy. If Reedy's playing, I can play Cooper Duff Titler. If he's playing... It would have to be just a pick of one of the both if they're both playing. I'm just happy with this team overall. My projected is... Oh, I don't know why it hasn't taken me back. Am I missing a player? No, everyone's there. I think my projected was about 1,813 or something like that. So 1,800, I'll take that. I'm happy with this lineup. 3 primos already in my defense. I only need to upgrade 3 defenders. I've already got 4 primos in my midfield. Hayden Young, if he can average 100, could be an M8. So I maybe only have to upgrade 3 midfielders there. My rucks are set. Jackson and Cherry are going to be top 5 rucks this year, so I'm happy to keep both of them. Sheasel, Green, and Flanders should all finish as top scoring forwards, so I might only have to upgrade 3 there. And then a Kitty Coleman. If he has the role, does he score well enough to be kept in a D6, maybe a D7 option? Can we then upgrade him later, maybe to a primo in the flex spots? We have an extra scoring primo. We can afford to maybe bring in another ruckman in that slot who's going to get some big points. That's what I did last year when I traded in Toby Nankervis as my flex. I'm happy with this team though, and I think I've covered all the players that I think you guys should consider. Last thing to do before we move on is officially launch my league, which I believe I already have done. As you can see, I'm in a few of them. The Hip and Shoulder League has already been opened. I have 4 players already in because I sent out invites to all the players that were involved last year. League code is on screen, 466146. Free to join. Come on in. Let's have some fun. Let's even do some shit talking in the chat. We can have a ball. I dropped the ball, speaking of, with my SuperCoach content last year. I did a couple of videos early and then I dropped off through the year. Not happening this year. I will drop weekly update videos throughout the season, regardless of whether I'm making trades or not. We will look at trades that potentially you guys can look at home. If players are on the bubble, we will talk about it. And I will obviously showcase my scores every week as well and do a track record and show, even maybe showcase the league if you join and show who's winning in the league and all that kind of stuff. Very keen for football to be back. Plenty of content coming your way. The next video will be a fun little project I've thrown together. I've seen some AFL podcasters doing it, and I'm going to take my own slant on it. It's going to be a little bit of fun before round 0 comes around, so I hope you guys are keen for that. If you've got any ideas for content you would like to see, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below as well. But that is it for today's video. Thank you for joining me. Do hit that like button down below if you want to get on board the community we are building. Hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date with future uploads by hitting that notification bell. And once more, feel free to join the Hip and Shoulder SuperCoach League this year by following the code on screen. I will also leave a link in the description of this video that will take you straight to this landing page. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.